What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the first episode of 1-0. You're going to go 1-0 this week listening to this show with me. My name's Jude McClaren. I'll be your host for all of these episodes in the future. I'm so excited to bring you guys this. I know a lot of you people listening right now probably know me, probably are my friends, but ideally at some point in the future, somebody will be listening to this and you'll be just getting introduced to me. So it's very nice to meet you. If I know and you're listening, you're an OG and you know that. But let's get right into the show. So we got a couple things to cover today. One, we'll just do a little bit of LSU season in review. You guys are probably already seeing this in the title. And then two, we'll go over the bowl games for the week going into this season. So to start off with the LSU season in review. So we're going to look back in the past, and then we're going to look forward for what it means to the future. The good news is for LSU football is despite all the craziness, despite all the horrificness of just how this season went, somehow we didn't have a losing season. Probably felt like the team, at some point, it really looks like we were going to have a losing season, but somehow we pulled out that Florida win. And I mean, even that Ole Miss win, and I know that Ole Miss is going to end their season 4-5, and Matt Corral had 6 turnovers in that last game, so it may not be that something, that's that great to harp on about and say that it's, just, oh, that was a great win, against a really good team, because they had their problems for sure, especially defensively. But at the same time, that is a team that put 50 on Bama, or close to 50 on Bama. I don't remember exactly the final score of that game, but I mean, it was a shootout. I remember that, and it was near that number. So once again, I mean, to be able to hold them to 48 points, I mean, I don't think that that's something that Bama's defense was able to do. I'll check myself on that one so far. But the point is, 2 big wins to end the season against 2 big rivals. And I just how huge that was, I can't even explain. Oh, it was the same amount to 4. They beat them 63-48, so they beat them by 10 more points than we did, which kind of makes sense when you consider, I mean, well, I guess maybe it doesn't make sense because you'd think that they beat them by even more. But I mean, in such a high-scoring game, for as bad as our defense was, to only give up 48, the same amount. I mean, I say only, but the same amount that Bama gave up, maybe feel a little bit better about ourselves there. But with the 6 takeaways, then it's like, okay, no, you can't. So that's why, first of all, and I get that the defense made improvements as things went on, and Jabril Cox in his final presser there after he came from North Dakota State was like, I think that Bo Pelini was proving that this scheme works and that this defense is going to be a thing. And I'm just like, no, dude, I don't care how positive it was looking. I mean, look at that Ole Miss game. There was still that one, number 81, the tight end. I don't know his name. God bless him. Wide open down the field. Nobody in sight. And that's why he almost scored. So it's just like those, just defensive catastrophes were still happening as the season went on, and even in the last game of the season when we were seeing improvement. So I think the first thing that LSU needs to do is move on from Bo Pelini. I know that that's very tough, especially with all of the financial situations that are going on around this country right now and around LSU athletics. I know they're losing a ton of money this year. But from what I've heard from the inside sources, not me, I don't have any inside sources, but from what I hear from guys like Brody Miller of The Athletic, look them up, for yourself. T-Bob Hebert, they host a podcast on The Athletic called Hold That Podcast. You can also look at Shay Dixon from 24/7 Sports. These people have insight. The people with the inside sources are saying that there are a lot of donors who are ready to pay up for Bo Pelini. So, I mean, if they're willing to pay up, I'm down with it, and I think that that's what's going to happen, and I think that's what the LSU Tigers need to do first off. When we look at the defense, there are a lot of talented players: Eli Ricks, Jay Ward, even Micah Baskersville. I'm forgetting some other people in there. I think Damone Clark is a senior now, so. Or maybe he was just a junior. I don't even remember, but he shouldn't. I mean, I don't even know what to think about him. And Todd Harris. Todd Harris looks a little bit better. I mean, a lot of talent on the defense is the main thing that we have coming back. So let's put them in good situations, and I think that starts with coaching. And I think we just saw this year that Bo Pelini's prime was in 2007, not 2020 and beyond. So we need to move on from him to start off. Just looking at their schedule, once again, looking back at what this season was for LSU football. So you got Mississippi State to start off the year, and just a disaster defensively, specifically. You can talk about Miles and how he looked a little bit rattled and, the offense wasn't clicking that well. But, I mean, to be frank with you, other than, Mississippi State getting better on offense as the year went on, they beat Missouri by like 52 to something in that last game, like 24 or something like that. And the air raid was really finally getting on, and the guys who were invested in that Mississippi State program after a lot of them left, eerily similar to LSU, really, made that team improve as time went on throughout the season for Mississippi State. But going back to that first game, where Mississippi State was on offense after that first game, they were demolished. KJ Costello threw 7 interceptions in the next 2 games. It might have been 3 games, but I'm pretty sure it was the next 2 games after that. Got benched for the other quarterback who's now doing fantastic for them. I can't remember his name, but I know he wears number 2. And it was just all around a catastrophe for an offense that wasn't that good other than that first game in the first half of the season, which is why Mississippi State had the season they did, 34-44. If you have a competent defense, an LSU caliber defense, despite the offensive struggles, that's a win. So once again, that's really what it stems back to. And I'm not really mad at Miles for that one. Vanderbilt, you handled business, but Vanderbilt also, everybody handled business against Vanderbilt because they're Vanderbilt. So just going to shrug that one off, even if though it was a 41-7 win. Then the Missouri game, where I do understand that you had to end up going up there. You had to get it relocated because of the hurricane. I was about to say hurricane, and, to be honest with you, it's about a good way to describe it. And still, blessings to all those people who were affected and still are affected from that. But once again, a defensive disaster. Miles Brennan, I remember as soon as Missouri goes down the field and scores, literally one play, Miles Brennan, Terrace Marshall, 75 yards, or I think it might even been longer, on a, just a rifle from Miles on a seam to respond in one play. So once again, you shouldn't be giving up 45 to Missouri. If you give up 34 because Connor Bazelak had a good year, sure, whatever. But I mean, Mississippi State held them to freaking 24 at the end of the season, and maybe that was a little bit of a struggle game. But point is, once again, you have a competent defense. This isn't Miles' fault. He also tears his abdomen or whatever in this game, putting the team on his back, I would like to say. So just a really tough one in Como, and you lose Miles in that game too when he was leading the country in passing yards at that point. A lot of people didn't know that. I didn't realize that. So then you have the South Carolina game where you get lucky on a lot of plays, and South Carolina is also terrible and is about to go lose to UAB in a bowl game. So that should tell you something about the Gamecocks this year, where you win 52-24 with TJ Finley. And TJ Finley looks really good in this game, plays really well, all that stuff. So, I mean, good for him. And this is the Dan Orlovsky game where Dan Orlovsky's like, I think you got to move on with TJ Finley. And I'm like, all right, Dan Orlovsky. And look, TJ needs his respect, but I think we saw that Max Johnson later in the year was the guy. And I remember I made a YouTube video about that, and this wasn't anything to do with this. And a lot of people were like, give TJ his respect. Max isn't even that good, blah, blah, blah. And I am so glad that the Tigers have all of these good quarterbacks because, I mean, this is something, and you got Garrett Nussmeier coming in. We'll talk about him. But you talk about all of these years of just mediocre quarterback play from the Tiger. Now you've got 3 legit guys who can start. You got a guy like TJ Finley who can put up 52, even if there were some defensive scores in that game. But you would have been so thankful for that. Just even a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, as an LSU fan, you would have been just like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. We're running a spread and being able to score 52. Just to put things in perspective for LSU fans. But anyways, that was TJ's best game. And then you have the Auburn game, which was just a disaster. This was an L regardless, 48-11. Auburn fired its coach, went 6-4. I don't really have much else to say about that. And if you're listening on audio, you can go check out the YouTube video on the Strive Network YouTube page to see my facial reaction there, because that about describes it, because that was just terrible. Then you have the Arkansas win, which was a really gritty win. Something that you could feel good about. Once again, TJ Finley getting the start in that one. And, just I honestly, now that I'm looking back, I remember that this was a close game and kind of a comeback win, but I don't remember that much of it. I forget exactly how it happened. It's just been a long season, right? So, but I remember, yeah, close game, good win, all things considered. Could be better, though, once again. And with defense, too, I get that Arkansas is better than they've been in a while. Sam Pittman building a good program up there, or the best program they've had in a while. But still, that's another game that LSU should probably score more points and maybe not give up as much. But maybe they do give up as much. Regardless, Felipe Franks won't be there, but they do have a dynamic quarterback in the wings. I forget his name, but he was a top recruit a couple years back. Then you go to Texas A&M, you score a touchdown, and you only give up 13 points on offense to A&M. This is another game that was really winnable. Imagine if you win this game and the Florida game and you really feel good about yourself. And this is a game that you really had chances to win is the thing. This is a game they should have won, and I think, A&M's losing a lot, so next year will be a different story. But, A&M defense played a lot better in this game, but it was also a torrential downpour. But I will give credit to the defense in respect, and especially the defensive backs, for making Kellen Mond throw for 33%. So that was, I would say that's probably the best loss of the season. If we had to do that, they were number 5 at the time, ended the season at number 5. So, once again, a winnable game, really looking back at it with a normal LSU team. So I think a lot of these guys got quality time. And then you have the Bama game. To be honest, I thought it was going to be 65-0, 70-0, 62-7. I didn't think that they'd score 3 times, especially even twice, touchdowns-wise, right? Maybe if you get 3 field goals, I'm like, oh, okay. But, I didn't think that there were going to be 2 big plays, one to Kayshon Boutte and then another by John Emery. So, really, to be honest, it's not a good thing that it's 55-17, but in this year, that's kind of expected. I wasn't surprised by that game. I don't think a lot of Tiger fans were either. And I know that it's the standard to beat Bama right now, but this game, y'all may think I'm crazy because I'm about to say that it's not that bad as an LSU fan, all things considered, when you lose 55-17 to your biggest rival, and the standard in the country, which you're trying to challenge. But honestly, scoring 2 50-plus yard touchdowns in that game, 40-plus yard touchdowns in that game, makes me feel pretty good about myself, considering those guys are coming back and will only get better. So, not saying they're going to win next year. I honestly, if you had to ask me right now, put a gun to my head, I'd say nope. And I think it'd be a pretty handy win by Bama. Maybe like a best case scenario, like a 14-point game, something like that. But still, I'm not mad at it. I hate to say it, I'm not mad at it. I wasn't that mad at the Bama game. I was like, hey, they gave us 2 exciting scores in that game. It's more than I expected. Then you have the Florida game, which just made the season so amazing, effectively kicked them out of the playoff, kicked Heisman candidate and Heisman frontrunner at the time, Kyle Trask, out of that race, although I think he did it even more in the SEC championship when he continuously fumbled. We'll revisit a little bit of another topic, talking about how a lot of Florida fans coming into the season said that Kyle Trask was the next Joe Burrow. Obviously, that is not the case. And I said that then, and I would like to say that at the beginning of the season this year, or now at the end of the season, that it's still not the case. So, just would like to address that. I would also like to say that you should never go into a game against Nick Saban and say, when we win on Saturday, because you won't. That's what happened. Just like Ryan Day, a little bit of a subtopic here, just recently a video released on him about how he was going to beat the expletive about, out of any team that he played. Didn't you just lose to the team that you're playing last year? And, isn't your team not as good and has less game experience? And I could be wrong. I could sit here on my pedestal and be like, Clemson's going to beat the crap out of them. And then it may not happen. Or Clemson's just going to beat them because, Ohio State's a talented team. And then it may not happen and they could lose and I could be like, wow, Ryan Day's laughing in my face. But I seriously doubt that, and I'm very confident about saying this, so I'm going to say it right now that Dan Mullen, Ryan Day types don't win national championships for a reason. Cocky coaching equals, getting punched in the mouth. That's just my opinion. And I think it's proven true in the past couple years and in the past couple weeks even. So that game was amazing. How about Cade York, Max Johnson, everything? If you're an LSU fan, and even if you're not an LSU fan, you probably know because that game was on ESPN and was the shocker of the year. So maybe even not the shocker of the year, but definitely the shock of that week. Then you have Ole Miss. That game was better than a lot of conference championship games. That was just, it went from sunny outside to a downpour in the wind and the rain, and everybody just kept passing. 6 turnovers, LSU gets a 17-point lead or 16-point lead, blows it, comes back afterward to win anyway. Max Johnson throws a pick in the end zone with the chance to retake the lead, stays poised, keeps going, gives it to Kayshon Boutte almost every single time. Goes for an SEC receiving record breaks an LSU receiver's SEC record in Josh Reed on top of the LSU Tigers record. 308 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's amazing. He's from New Iberia, and I love him so much. And then he tweets out @DynamicDuo, @Max Johnson, and everything feels right. So that's the season for LSU. Went for about 16 minutes there on that. Pretty crazy. But, just a beautiful end of the season. But, and I think a lot of Tiger fans after those past 2 games would be like, man, we can contend again with these 2 guys. And look, maybe the year after next year, that can be a conversation. And look, if they did that next year and they proved me wrong, I would just be... If Kayshon Boutte and Max Johnson ever see this video, I doubt they will, and they're just seeing me and they're like, oh, okay, all right, you don't think so next year, you don't believe in us, you're not a true fan, I'll be like, okay, fine. Because if they do it, that would be amazing. But I just don't see it. I think they're a little bit more experience. I think it'll be kind of like, this is like 2017, then we got 2018, then we got 2019. That's where I feel like the LSU Tiger team is right now. But there's no even guarantee that a season like 2019 would happen again. And when I say that, I don't mean like an undefeated, or maybe it is an undefeated season, but I don't mean like just the record-breaking, beating the brakes off people, all that stuff, right? Like, I'm just saying that could be the trajectory of when you could be planning to really compete for a championship again. Just being realistic. Next year, I think if you can get to a New Year's 6 with like a 10-win season, I mean, that would be great. I really think that would be a huge jump for these young guys, and you should feel good about that if you're a Tiger fan next year. That's what I'm hoping to be the expectation. I think you at least need to get, honestly, I think you need to at least get 9 wins to really feel like you're moving in the right direction. But, I mean, I can say all this stuff, but you really don't know until next season, and you really don't find out after you digest an entire season. But ideally, it's going to be a lot better than last year, and I think with that dynamic duo of Max Johnson and Kayshon Boutte, things are looking really good and bright offensively. And with Eli Ricks, Derek Stingley coming back after, being injured, right? You'd hope. Who knows? Maybe even opt out of the next season. Things are crazy. You'll see about Arik Gilbert. I think he's probably gone, but Cole Taylor showed some. I mean, his shoe is immortalized in LSU history. But on top of that, he looks pretty good as well, just as a true freshman. And then you get Miles Brennan back too, unless he transfers. I mean, but I don't get the feel that he's going to transfer. So I mean, I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like, because Mac Johnson feels like your guy. And I love Miles. I was so excited for him this season because he had stayed and all that stuff. But it's just like, and Miles, he knows the offense. He's probably a better thrower. But it's just like, I mean, the poise that Max has. And this is a whole nother debate that I could make another video on probably in the offseason. So I won't go too deep into it. But I just think the thing that Max has on Miles and TJ, even though Miles is just, I love him to death. I really can't. That's all I can say. It's just mobility. He's got that mobility and the poise that nothing shakes him, and a lot of toughness and grit too. So he's got that championship DNA from his dad. So we'll see what happens, but at the end of the day, it really feels like Max is the guy. If Miles starts, though, I'm not going to be mad. I'll put it that way. But it really feels like Max is the guy. And the chemistry that he's built with Kayshon, it's just like, think this is just what you got to do. I'm on my Dan Orlovsky now, but we'll see. Shout out to Miles, man, though, for all that he's done. So that's really the season in review. I think the big question mark, there's two big question marks going into next season. Will Miles Brennan start, or will it be Max Johnson? And no hate to TJ Finley, because he did a great job this year. And I mean, God forbid both those guys get injured, he will be able to run the offense at a high clip, and he's very talented. But you also got Garrett Nussmeier coming into the mix. So, I mean, it's like, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. The quarterback room is going to be very interesting. Then you've got the defense. And if Bo Pelini doesn't get fired, it's going to be very, very... I think everybody just needs to lower their expectations very much. I was just talking about expectations for next season, but they need to go down. So those are the two biggest questions that I would say about LSU football. And then you got number 3, which is the Title IX investigation, because that could have a lot of implications. You can't mess with that stuff. We'll see, because that could affect Ed Orgeron. And if that happens and he's out, you got a lot of promise in your LSU, so you'll probably get a really good coach. But that, once again, everybody needs to lower their expectations. So that is honestly probably the bigger question mark. And I could be wrong. It could be everybody. Just survives because of what he did last year. I mean, we saw that with Will Wade. So maybe maybe I'm just being a little too, anxious about the whole thing. But just saying, that's something that you really got to pay attention to too. So that is really LSU season in review, all things considered, off-season preview, whatever you want to call it. Now we'll get into just the end of the show here. So we'll do a little bit of bowl game projections for the week. We'll do this for the next episode that we do too. We'll talk about every, bowl game. I mean, and I may do another episode during this week. Who knows? We'll see. I'm just going to be posting whenever. If you want to learn more about how the show's going to work, check out the trailer. It's like 3 minutes. It's right above the episode on Spotify or wherever, whatever you're on. So just check that out if you want to hear like how this show is going to go. But whenever it comes to episodes and posting. So bowl games, because we got some fun ones this week. I mean, we got some really fun ones. So starting off, this isn't one of the really fun ones, but starting off tomorrow. I mean, it's crazy. Today when this is posted, I'm recording on Sunday night. App State and North Texas. So App State's favored by 21. I don't know if it's going to be that much. I think North Texas will put up a fight, but I think that App State will win handily in this one. They got a veteran quarterback, championship pedigree. Didn't work out this year. They'll finish 9-3 and they'll win this game for sure. Then we got Tulane and Nevada. So I know Nevada's had a really good season this year, but I just think that the Louisiana boys will get it done talent-wise for Tulane, but then also the American Conference is just better than the Mountain West. The Mountain West had a good year, though. Don't get me wrong, especially San Jose's. They've got one of the undefeated conference champions in all of college football. I know it's only 7 wins, but still, I mean, hey, that's something a lot of other conferences, not a lot, but some conferences don't have. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to roll with Tulane here in this one, but this could be close. It's got Tulane by 3. I like that. Then we've got Bowl of the Week, the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl, UCF and BYU. So BYU on the line is favored by a touchdown. And I thought about this one. I was like, okay, this is the one that I've really got to get right, because this is the game I'll probably dig into. If you see another episode this week, it may be a BYU UCF reaction / game review where I just talk about it. And it's only maybe like 15 minutes or something. We'll see. So I'm going to go UCF. I really like BYU. I think Zach Wilson is the second most talented quarterback in the draft. A lot of people may be like, oh, you say that, right? And I'm talking talent, just raw talent. I think he's the second most talented quarterback in the draft this year. And I really like him, but I think UCF just thrives in that underdog role, even if it's not by much. But, the thing is, I just think, even as a team, if this year UCF hasn't been as good, and BYU maybe is better than this game against Coastal Carolina. But, I think if you watch that game, it wasn't even... yeah, BYU made some mistakes, but also it just looks like Coastal beat them. I don't feel like BYU lost that game. I feel like Coastal won that game. And I just think UCF's more talented than Coastal, even if they, haven't been as much complete as a team. You got to remember Dylan Gabriel, their starting quarterback, leading the country in passing yards per game. So I just think Josh Heupel's going to have his team prepared. This is going to be a close game, but I think UCF in the underdog role, they thrive, they pull the upset here. But BYU could very well win this game, but I'm going to roll with UCF in this one. Then on Wednesday, you got Louisiana Tech and Georgia Southern in the New Orleans Bowl. This is, I was Georgia Southern all the way here, and I think I'm still going to be Georgia Southern, but now I realize it's the New Orleans Bowl and La Tech's in it. This could be closer than I thought, and it's got Georgia Southern by a touchdown, by 6, right? That's where the Vegas line has them. But I think Georgia Southern, at the end of the day, has played more games, and I think they're just better than Louisiana Tech. They got that triple option. I think they're just going to wear them down. They play good defense. Shai Werts is a 4-year starter at this point, maybe even 5 years. I don't even know. But I think Georgia Southern gets the win here. Louisiana Tech, after having that 10-win season, and a lot of people graduate. So then you got Memphis and FAU later that night in the Montgomery Bowl. I like Memphis by about 9.5. I think this will be a close game. I could see Memphis maybe pulling away a little bit more, maybe a 2-score win. But I like Memphis in this game over FAU as well. Then you got Hawaii and Houston. Houston's favored by 13. I think this game could be closer, but I think I'm going to roll with Houston too. They've shown up really well in some games. Like, they've looked really, really good. They've played up to some opponents, and they've looked bad in others. Some inconsistency under Dana Holgorsen, still trying to build this program. And then they couldn't even get a game for like the first 5 weeks of the season. So that was tough. And I just think the travel, Houston's traveling interstate, Hawaii's traveling across an entire ocean. I know they have to do that a lot, and they're used to it, but I think Houston will get the dub here. But this could be close. That'll be a fun game to watch. Another fun game to watch. This may not be of the weekday games. This is probably the second best game in Marshall and Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 3 points. Marshall's looked bad in the past 2 games, especially since they lost to Rice out of nowhere, right? But I think I'm going to go Marshall. I don't think Buffalo is going to have Jarrett Patterson. They may have Jarrett Patterson. Let me actually double check this right now. But I think that they're just going to bounce back here. And I think that they're really going to just kind of come out of this game and just be ready to get the dub. Because they've had 2 tough losses. And it was after their season was going perfect. So I know Jarrett Patterson's phenomenal, and I'm trying to see if he's going to play, because I know he got hurt. I'm looking Jarrett Patterson injury. Let's see. Okay, he's out for the season. No. That's the center from Notre Dame. That's not, I want Buffalo. I'm sorry for you guys watching and listening at this point. Okay. Oh, okay, so he returned after the injury. Okay, so that's good. So I was just out of the loop. That was a whole thing that was done by me. But even with Jarrett Patterson, I just think that Marshall is going to outscore Buffalo in this game. But maybe Buffalo with Jarrett Patterson, he puts the team on his back, goes for another 300 yards. Who knows? We'll have to see. But I'm going to go with Marshall. I think they're going to bounce back after those 2 losses. They're going to come out real motivated to win this game and end their season on a positive note, 8-2. Then the Saturday slate, and really the game of the week, if we have to. Well, me personally, I like UCF BYU just because I've been enthralled with UCF since their undefeated season. Liberty and Coastal Carolina, so we're getting to see the game that never got played. that gave us one of the best games of the year in BYU, if not the best game of the year in BYU Coastal. Liberty and Coastal Carolina. I know I already said it. I'm going Coastal Carolina. They're by 6. This will be close. This will be a phenomenal game. I can tell, but I just think Coastal's going to beat Liberty. I think they're going to finish undefeated. I just think they get the job done here. If they were playing a different team, like if they were in a New Year's Six or something, I don't know if I'd pick them. But I just think that spread option is going to be too much. I think that BYU's probably better than Liberty, even though Liberty's pretty dang good. So that's just kind of what I think here. Then UAB and South Carolina take the Blazers all the way. They're only favored by 4.5 points. I don't care. It's an SEC team. South Carolina's bad. Unless Shane Beamer is coaching this game, which I don't think he is, and if he is, that's pretty freaking crazy. UAB, easy. I think they win by 10 points, maybe even 14. Easy. Blazers all the way in this one. Conference USA champs. I don't know. Maybe it won't be that close, or that big of a gap. But okay, maybe 10 points, 14 points max. Like I said, maybe it won't be that. Maybe South Carolina comes out and beat them, and I look like an idiot. But G5 for the win. UAB's got this. South Carolina sucks. Sorry, South Carolina. Okay, Louisiana and UTSA. They're UL's favored by 13 points. I think it might be a little bit closer than that. I also think they could blow them out. I could see that. Louisiana's really good. UTSA is a little bit better than their record at 7-4. But I think, Louisiana beat. If there's actually one team that both of these teams played that if you want to make a comparison on, obviously different points of the season, but Texas State. UTSA, double overtime against Texas State's backup. I can tell you all about Texas State football. And Tyler Vitt's not that great. Not that great. That's what I'll say. If McBride was playing that game, I think that might have been a dub for Texas State, just all things considered. Louisiana, close game of Texas State because Brady McBride was playing. And, won by more. So, obviously, there's a lot more that goes into football than that, but that's the one comparison that you can have with, these teams in different conferences that have played the same team. And I think that Louisiana wins this game handily. I like them by about 2 touchdowns here, and they'll be cooking up some bird gumbo. That's for sure. I know that some of my listeners may not like that sentence, but it's just the truth, and it's what's going to happen, whether you like it or not. Western Kentucky and Georgia State, our final bowl game that we'll talk about here. I don't know too much about either of these teams. I do know a good amount by Georgia State just because I've been to, if you're just listening to this the first time, a couple years back, I went to Sunbelt Media Day because of where I work at my college. So Georgia State, man. Georgia State all the way. They're favored by 4.5 points. Maybe this game will be close, but I could see Georgia State even winning this game by more. I think the Sunbelt goes undefeated this week. Let's go. G5 supremacy. I don't know. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. You heard all the picks there. You heard me talk about LSU. Thank you for tuning in on the video if you tuned in on the video. Thank you for tuning in on audio if you tuned in on the audio. Lots more content coming out. I'm on break from school right now, and maybe it'll slow down when school comes, but we'll still be putting out stuff consistently. There will be a YouTube and an audio feed, an audio wherever you get your podcast, and the same thing with video of me at my desk here on my laptop. And you can check that out if you'd rather watch that if you have some time. But then if you're in your car, you're going somewhere, you're doing something, you can listen to the audio feed. So thank you very much. Follow at the Strive Network on Instagram for a lot of clips and content. Follow me on Twitter at Jude McClaren for other content and me talking about college football or the NFL or sports in general. We'll get into a lot of other stuff here on 1-0, but you've gone 1-0 this week. You're undefeated. Keep going 1-0 every week by listening to this show. Appreciate you very much, and I will catch you guys later.